Hi, I'm Scott Moeller. A couple of months ago, I released something I called a putting probability tool. And at that time, I only had about 11 golfers in the tool, but there was enough information in there that I could show you the basic concept behind it. And I did that in an earlier video. But since that time, I've made a few changes to this tool to make it a little bit easier to use. And I'm going to go over those with you in this video. By way of a short recap, I want to explain again what the putting probability tool is and the kind of information that you can get out of it. All right, so what you'll see here, of course, is an Excel spreadsheet. It's actually a workbook with all kinds of different tabs down here at the bottom, and we'll go through some of these as we enter in new data into the tool. Over here in the left-hand column, we've got a list of golfers. All these golfers that I've got in here so far are from the APBA all-time great set, which includes 144 golfers. At this point in time, I'm up to 44 golfers that I've entered in an order that suits me and a tournament that I'm playing, but you'll know that it's anything but alphabetical. Next to the golfers' names, we have the year that card is based on. And then across the top here, what you have are the putting distances up to and beyond 100 feet. And these columns are numbered in such a way that they match the APBA putting boards. So this would be 1 foot out, this would be 2 feet out, and this would be 7 to 9 feet out, and so on and so forth, over to this column R here. The next column is what I call the go total, because these probabilities that you see in here, these probabilities of making a putt from this distance, are simply totaled in this column. So if we were to take Nicholas here and add up all the different percentages involved in making a putt from these various distances, those numbers add up to 780.55, and you can see the formula for that right up here. Okay, once you get over here past the S column and you move into the T column and over to Z, what you have shown are the probability of this golfer 3 putting or worse from that distance. So again, if we stick with Nicholas, what this is showing us is that from a distance of 20 to 24 feet out, and this is for his first putt, assuming that you go for it, he has a 19.44% chance of making the putt from that distance based on his all-time great card from the year 1975, but from that same distance, he has a 3.55% chance of 3 putting or worse. And the same logic applies to each of these columns. Notice that the 3 putt percentages are only calculated from 20 feet and beyond. Because more than likely that's not going to affect your decision as to whether to go for it or not, or to play it safe, in other words. Up to 19 feet, most of the time, I would think you're probably going to take your chances and go for it, because I don't have the probabilities shown here, but these percentages are all going to be very low of 3 putting from this distance here. All right. So again, another quick example from 25 to 29 feet. Nicholas has a 16.6% chance of making his putt from that distance, but he has a 5.56% chance of 3 putting or worse from that distance. If we go all the way over here to column Z, this is for 100 feet and greater, or actually greater than 100 feet. So he has a 5.56% chance of making a putt from that distance if he goes for it, whereas he has a 32.64% chance of three putting from that distance. The color coding that you see here is that these gray boxes indicate when the chance of three putting is actually higher than the chance of making the putt from that same distance. So if we look here in this column, which represents 40 to 49 feet out, Nicholas has a 12.65% chance of three putting or worse, compared to an 11.11% chance of making a putt from that distance. The yellow boxes here simply mean that this is the best percentage from that particular distance. So you can see that from 1 foot out, all of these golfers, with the exception of Harrison here, have a 100% chance of making a putt from that distance. And pick any other column you want. If we take 25 to 29 feet out, then it looks like Tiger Woods has the best chance of making a putt from that distance for any of the cards that I've calculated the percentages on so far. He has a 19.44% chance of making the putt from 25 to 29 feet out. We have a couple of boxes here that are in olive colored, and that's a mixture of yellow and gray. That's what you get. So basically what it's saying is that both yellow and gray apply for this particular cell. So if we're looking at Olazabal, he has a 12.11% chance of three putting or worse from 40 to 49 feet out, which happens to be the best percentage in this particular column, and it is the reason for it being yellow, and the reason for it being gray is because that percentage is actually still higher than what he has for that distance of making the putt in the first place, which is 8.33%. So mixing yellow with gray, you get this olive color. These other two columns over here are also new in this version of the putting probability tool. And I'm still playing around with this, and there's nothing sacred about these columns. But what I wanted was some way of differentiating players based on their likelihood of three putting from a particular distance. So it's easy enough to go ahead and sort these players based on their likelihood of making putts from particular distances based on the cumulative total, which is what this column is here. And you'll notice that these are all sorted, but you get some folks in here that are tied. So if we go back to Olazabal again and look at Bobby Locke, both of them have the same percentages here for their go total, which more or less means that they have about the same probability of making putts at different distances. But if we come over here, we can see that Olazabal is actually better at avoiding three putts. And so I've used a formula. Again, nothing particularly magic about this. This is totally arbitrary on my part, but a formula up here which calculates that person's score, let's call it, and a higher score means that that person has less likelihood of three putting. And you can see that Olazabal beats Locke based on the formula that I'm using, because he has a score of 29.71. These are not really percentages at this point. It's more just an arbitrary score, whereas Locke has a score of 27.66. And then using that and adding that to the Go total column here, we can then come up with a grand total. And of course, these scores can be sorted on that basis as well, because this is an Excel spreadsheet. If you use this tool, feel free to change this formula if you like something different, or to ignore this altogether. But that's what that's about. Okay, so what I want to do at this point is I want to show you how to add your own data to this tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here to this cell right here, and we're going to go ahead and add in Lou Worsham. So let me just go ahead, and type in his last name. And the card that we're going to be using is from the All-Time Great set, and it's based on the year 1947. Okay. There's all these other tabs here I want to talk to you about, and so I'm going to come back to what these numbers here mean down in this last row, and jump to the PRNs tab. Okay, now what you're looking at on this screen are my tabulation of all of the PRN values in the P column for each of the 44 players that I've added thus far to this spreadsheet. And again, the names here aren't in any particular order other than the order in which I came to them. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to scroll over here to the right, because there's a particular way in which I like to do this that makes it a little bit easier for me to see and for you to be able to follow along. So I'm going to scroll all the way over to this point here where we've got Worsham in this column. And I like to do these, it takes me about an hour or so to do 3 players from scratch. So what I tend to do is I tend to load up the 3 people or 3 golfers that I want to calculate the probabilities on, and then I work from left to right so that I don't get too confused by a jumble of numbers that are in here. To save some time for the purposes of this video, I've already gone ahead and taken Lou Worsham's card, and all I have done is I've looked in the P column and I've counted up the number of times he has a 1, which is once, and that's on a roll of 66. The number of times he has a 4, and that's once, and that's on double ones, and so on and so forth. And you see that a lot of these happen to be 1s, and that's not unusual for these players, particularly the all-time greats. We get down here to 21. He has 2 of those on his card, and those numbers appear for a roll of 23 and a roll of 52. And after you do this a while, you begin to notice that a lot of these same numbers show up on particular dice rolls, and it gets a little bit quicker to tabulate all of these numbers. You notice he doesn't have any 29s, he doesn't have any 2s or 3s either, but that's why these cells are blank. And if you do this correctly and add up all these numbers here, the worksheet will tell you that you've reached a 36. You've added up to a 36, and of course the formula for that is right up here. It's just adding this column of numbers. If I have a number of 35 or something like that, that means I've skipped a number and I need to go back and double check my work. But that's the very first step. If you're going to add your own players to the worksheet, just take your player and put them in the column that you want to work with. I prefer the BS column, and that allows me to see the other information that I need to see over here. Now, there are some shortcuts built into this particular spreadsheet versus the last one that I did, and I'm going to show you how to use those. Okay, now you'll notice the BW column isn't based on any particular player. It just refers to the probability or the percentage of making a putt, and it's going to be based on the PRN numbers of 36 to 1. And let me show you how this works. Okay, these are the numbers I put in manually. Just did it by hand. The BY column over here are the cumulative PRNs. And so you don't have to do these calculations. The spreadsheet will do it for you. So what this is essentially saying is that Lou Worsham, because we're using this column of data here, has no 36s on his card. He has no 34s. And these specific numbers matter in terms of the probability calculations because of the way the APBA putting boards are designed. I won't get deep into detail on that, but that's why these particular numbers are the ones that show up. He has no 32s on his card. We do see that he has a 31, but the next column that we really care about is up here. And so what this is saying is, in essence, if you translate this into just plain old English, what it's saying is that the number of PRNs that are 30 or higher for Lou Worsham is 1. Okay, and so this is essentially, if you look up here, BS30 to BS36, it is adding these numbers up in this particular area, and it only, well, I went too far there. There's only one that falls into that, and so that number automatically is filled in for you in this block. The same thing is true as you go up the column, okay? So the number of values or PRNs that he has on his P column on his card between 27 and 36 is 3. So it's counting these 3 numbers right here, and it's cumulative, okay? So as you go up, you're going to get more and more numbers. So if we go all the way up to here, what this is saying is that the number of the PRN numbers of 9 or greater on Worsham's card, okay, so it's counting all of these up for you, is 32. And if you look up here, this would be 33, 34, 35, and 36, okay, which accounts then for all of the PRNs on his card. So we're not going to use these numbers just yet. These will be useful for us when it comes time to calculating the 3 putt percentages or the probability of 3 putting, but we're going to hold off on that just for a second. Instead, I want to explain what this other column of numbers is here, because these are the ones we're going to use first off. So if we go back over here to the Golfers tab and you look at the different columns that you've got across here, and if you were to count all these up, you'd see that there are 16 different putting columns. Okay, and if you come back to the PRNs tab, and if you were to count all these numbers up, you'd see that there are 16 different numbers that appear here. And each of these numbers, starting from the bottom and working up, corresponds to the percentages that go into these boxes along here. So let's come back here. What this is saying is that for Worsham, he has 0 PRNs that are 35 and higher, meaning 35 or 36. So we go back to the Golfers tab, okay, and we look at this number right here. It's a 34, okay? So that means that anything that is a 34 or lower is in, or a P, which is in for any putt that's for par or higher. Okay? All you really need to remember, if you want to kind of, tease out how all this works, feel free to do so, and that's why I'm offering this explanation. But if you just want to fill in these boxes and not get too hung up on the math, what you need to remember is that 0 that we just looked at over on the PRNs tab refers to this first box here. And a 0 equates with 100%. Okay, so we'll put 100 in there. The next number is a 31. This is telling us that any PRN that is 31 or lower is in for a putt of par or higher. So we come back to the PRN tab and we look that here, 31, he has a 0 again. So we're going to have 100% go into this box here. The next one is a 29. So any PRN that is a 29 or lower is going to be in, meaning anything that is 30 or higher is going to be a miss. All right, so remember 29, come over here to PRN, click on 29 if you want, and he has one number, okay, that is higher than that, okay, and it happens to be a 31. But all we need to do is pay attention to what number is in here. Now, this number corresponds to what's in the BW column here. So all you need to do is come up here to where it says 1. That's because we have a 1 here. We don't have a 0. That's why I didn't do anything for 0. But a 1 means he has a likelihood of making that putt is 97.22%. That's the number we're going to transfer over to this box here. All right, now I'm going to pick up the pace on this. Hopefully you've grasped the concept. Okay, we've got a 27. Click on 27. That's a 2. A 2 is a 94.44. Put that in there. Come over, 25. Click on 25. That's a 6. A 6 is 83.33. So you can see that this actually goes pretty quick once you get all the PRNs in. That's probably the most time-consuming aspect of this whole little project. 23 is the next number. 23 is a 12. A 12 is a 66.67. All right, I'm just going to continue to do these. 21 is an 18. An 18 is 50%. Probably could have done that one in my head. Okay. All right. 19 is the next number. 19 is 21. 21 is 41.67%. All right. 13 is the next number. That's at 27. 27 is 25%. 8 is the next number. That's a 32. A 32 is 11.11%. 7 is a 32. We already know what that is. 6 is a 33. That's an 8.33%. 5 is a 33. So again, that's going to be 8.33%. 4 is a 34, which is 5.56%. 23. Oops, having trouble clicking. 35 is 2.78. And then a 2 is also a 35, so that's going to be 2.78. Okay, and then this number is calculated automatically for you. All right, and so these are sorted. So what we see is that Worsham is, not a great putter, at least by ATG standards. He's going to be, somewhere in this vicinity, which is near the bottom of our list at this point. Let's figure out which ones that he has or matches the highest score on, and what we'll do is we'll highlight those and put them in yellow. So I'm just doing this by eyeballing, and we can see that that's probably about it right there. I'll just quickly go across here. There's no anomalies that jump out at me. Okay, yeah, so those are the only ones in which he has, so he's really quite good from 4 feet and in, but beyond that, and he's not among the best. Okay, so click on home and we'll highlight those particular cells. Okay, now we're over here to calculating the 3-putt percentages, or the likelihood of 3-putting or worse. Again, these all assume that you're going for the putt. None of this has anything to do with playing it safe. Didn't do those calculations. Those are not considered in any way as part of this worksheet. It's always if you are going for it. Okay, and this column matches up with 20 to 24 feet. Okay, which means we're going to use this tab right here. All right, but first I'm going to go back here to the PRNs tab. Now you'll remember we calculated these numbers based on filling in the PRN numbers over here. In other words, these were calculated automatically for us, but we didn't do anything with them when we were looking at the probability of making putts for certain distances. These are really about when you're calculating the 3 putt percentages. Okay, these numbers get transferred over to these tabs here. So for example, if well, let me show you the tab first. Okay, so the numbers that appear in red here refer to those percentages, to those numbers that I just showed you. So these columns up here refer to how many feet out you are for that putt, and so let me start over. These numbers up here refer to how much you could miss the putt by. So you could miss it by 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, all the way up to 7 feet from 20 to 24 feet. Again, that's just based on the APBA putting boards, okay? And we're going to just focus on this area right here for now. We'll come back to this in just a second up here. Okay, so this column here refers to PRNs that are 23 or higher, okay, on Worsham's card. That number is calculated for us right in this column, right? So if we come over to 23 or higher, we know that number to be 16. We don't have to transfer it over there. It's done automatically. If we come back here to the next column, it says, okay, what about numbers that are 25 or higher in the P column? This is telling us that there are 9 numbers that meet that criteria, and it got that number from right here, all right? So any numbers that you see in row 5 on any of these tabs down here is already calculated for you. What you need to do is to fill in the numbers that go into this row here, but, and this is an important but, you can skip the ones that have zeros down here because the way the calculation is done, it's essentially multiplying by 0, which of course is 0. So we can skip that. We don't have to do that work. The number that we care about, okay, in terms of coming up with the final calculation is this number right here. And so let's show you how that works. Working from right to left, okay? With Worsham, okay, how many PRNs does he have in the 31 to 32 range? So we'll come back to the PRN. We're going to look over here, okay, and we can see that in the 31 to 32 range, he has one PRN that fits that. So click back on this tab, and we're going to put a 1 in the box there. How many does he have that are between 28 and 30? So we'll come back over here, and we'll click again just to highlight the area. He has 1. So we'll put a 1 in that box. Okay, and you can see that this percentage is growing. Okay, how about from 25 to 27? All right, in 25 to 27, he has 7 PRNs that fit that range. Put that number in there. And now this one's a little bit more complex. How many does he have that are between 21 and 24, or between 35 and 36? Okay, these PRN numbers, both of these result in a miss by 4 feet. Okay, so again, to help you understand a little bit behind the logic behind this. Okay, so 21 to 24 and 35 to 36. All right, we look at 21 to 24, and he's got 4, 8, 11, but nothing in 35 to 36. So we'll come back here, and we'll put an 11 in there. And now we're done for this distance, because we don't have to do anything with these zeros here. And we see that he has a 4.4% chance of 3 putting from 20 to 24 feet if he goes for it on that first putt. All right, so this number we're going to take and put it over here in the golfers tab, and it's going to be 4.4, and it'll add a 0 for us because of the way the cell's formatted. And you just continue on in the same fashion, filling in each of these boxes. And I'm going to do a couple more for you. All right, so we're going to next go to this tab here, 25 to 29 feet. You can see that this information is already filled out for you. All right, so we're looking at 31 to 32. Come over to the PRNs tab, and we've kind of already done this. If you've got a good memory, you might not even need to do this using the spreadsheet. You might just be able to remember, but he's got 1. Now, one thing I like to do, here's a little trick. I like to drag this cell and put it next to the one that I'm working on so I don't get mixed up which one of these I need to click on. So I've just dragged the worksheet from over here to over here, and I'm going to put a 1 in this box right there. Okay, 29 to 30, what do we got? He has 0. Okay, so we don't even need to fool with that one. You can leave it blank, or you can put a 0 in there, doesn't matter either way. 26 to 28. He's got 5. All right, so we'll fill that in. 23 to 25. That's 10. And now we know he doesn't have any 35 to 36. We can remember that from before. 20 to 22. How many does he have? He's got 5. So we'll put that in, and now we're done. Okay, so 7.41 is the number that needs to go in this box right here. And I'm going to fill all the rest of these out, because I also want to show you the reset button, and I want to save this data for my own use. So we'll drag this box over 1, and now we're going to work on 30 to 39 feet. First cell we need to figure out is 31 to 32, and as if I recall correctly, that's 1, right? Yeah. All right, so we'll put a 1 in there. 28 to 30. He's got 1. 25 to 27. He's got 6, 7. Okay. 22 to 24. He's got 6 and 3 is 9. 19 to 21. He's got 4. And 16 to 18 and 36. Well, he doesn't have a 36. So just 16 to 18. He's got 3. And we're done. And that number is now 18.52. Come over here. And we'll type that in. Go to the next one. Okay. All right. Drag this over 1 to there. 40 to 49 feet. How many 32s does he have? He has 0, so we can skip that. How many 31s does he have? Well, he has 1, I remember that. How many 29 to 30s? He's got 0, we can skip that. How many 27 to 28s? He's got 2, so we'll put a 2 in there. 24 to 26. And you can see this goes pretty quick if you don't stop and do the highlighting and all that stuff. But I wanted to make sure you could see what I was doing. 21 to 23. That's 6 and 2 is 8. All right. And then 18 to 20, he doesn't have a 36. So 18 to 20 is 3. And now we've got 14 to 17. He doesn't have a 34 or 35. So 14 to 17 is 4. And we're done with that one. Okay, 2176. Come back to golfers, and we'll just type that in. All right, let's do the next one. And we'll drag this over 1. 50 to 60. All right, 32s, he's got 0. 31, he has 1. 29 to 30, I believe that was a 0. Yes. Okay, we'll skip that. 27 to 28, he's got 2. 25 and 26, he's got 6. 23, 24 is 7. 21, 22 is 4. 18 to 20 and 36. Okay, 18 to 20, he's got 3, and we don't have to worry about 36. 15 to 17 and 35, that's going to be 3, and we don't have to worry about 35. 12 to 14 and a 34. He's got 3, and we don't have to worry about 34. So we're done for that. 28.86. All right, and the next one is going to be from 61 to 100 feet. And if we go to that one, 32s, he has 0. 31, he has 1. 30 is a 0. 28, 29, I believe it's 1. Yes, 1, okay. 26 and 27 is a 4. 24, 25 is a 6. 22, 23 is a 6. 22, 23, I get that right? Yeah, 6. Okay, 20, 21 is a 3. 18, 19 plus 36. 18 and 19 is 2, plus 0 is 2. 16 to 17 plus 35. That's a 2 plus 0, and that's a 2. 13 to 15 and 34. That's a 3 plus 0. 10 to 12 plus 33. That's a 3 plus 0. And we're done. 35 to 34. Excuse me, 35.34. Okay, one last one to do. So we'll drag this over to there. 32s, he has 0, 31, 1, 30, 0, 29, 0, 28 is a 1, 27 is a 1, 26 is a 3, 24 and 25 is a 6, 22, 23 is a 6, 20, 21 is a 3, 18, 19 is a 2, 16, 17 is a 2, 14, 15, and 36 is a 2, 12 and 13 is a 2, 10, 11, and 35 is a 2, 8, 9, and 34 is a 1, 6, 7, and 33 is a 1. All right, we're done. 47, 76. Put in the 47, 76, and these numbers here, these cells aren't formatted, so it looks a little bit funny there. Let's go back over to the PRN tab, and what we want to do now is we want to be able to put in the information for Archer, and we have to do some cleanup here because of the Worsham data that we've got. So the easiest way to do that, I think, is first of all, let's hide Worsham just to kind of move his stuff out of the way. And you'll notice that the column that we're going to use to put in Archer's data is the BT column. But if we click over on this cell here, you can see that everything references the BS column, and similar to this situation over here, the CA column references the BS column, and both of these need to say BT where it says BS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight both of these columns essentially, and I'm going to use the find and replace over here. We'll do replace, and I think what we're going to need to do is put BS here under find what, and BT under replace with, and I'll click replace all, and now we've made all 51 replacements. Let's double check our work. Yep, this is saying BT9, and that's exactly what we want, and BT36, and this is BT3, BT36, so on and so forth. So we should be good to go now. All we need to do is look at Archer's card and put in the PRN information just like we did before. Now, once you get him done, and then if you do 3 at a time like I do, you go to the next player, and of course that's going to be the BU column, and so then you would find and replace the BT with BU in these two columns that are BY and CA. And then what you can do is take these 3 columns, assuming that all the information is already filled out. We'll go all the way to the bottom here, and what we would do, and I'm not going to do this because I don't want to have to repair it for myself later on, is that what we would do is we would cut this information, okay? And then instead of copying it, what we'll do is we'll come over here to the first available spot, and click and right click, and then what we would have the option of doing is inserting copied or cut information. And when we do that, it will put those 3 columns right here, and it will push everybody else 3 columns to the right, and then what we would end up again with the BS, BT, and BU columns as our active columns for entering data. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can do that, and you don't have to do the way that I do it, but I find that if I do about 3 of these at a time, that's more than enough for me in terms of my attention span, and everything goes pretty smoothly, and I find that I make relatively few, if any, mistakes when I work on this for about an hour. There's one last thing we want to do before we finish up. Come back over here to the Golfers tab, as I want to make sure these gray boxes are all correct. It's almost always true that once you get over to the 30 to 39 3-putt column, that this number is going to be higher than whatever you've got here, and it clearly is. Let's double check this. Is this number 7.41 higher than this number? No, it is not. So this stays a white box. So he has more of a chance of Worsham has more of a chance of making a putt from 25 to 29 feet, 11.11%, than he does of 3-putting from that distance. So that's pretty good. It means he doesn't 3-putt a great deal. All right. And he's not going to be a leader in any of these categories. We can see that all of these have numbers that are lower than what he has listed here. I know that was long. It's a little bit tedious. When you talk through it, it takes a little bit longer to do everything. As I said, you can estimate about, I think, 20 minutes a player, particularly when you're first starting out, to add in players to this. I'm going to keep plugging away on this on my own. Sometime, hopefully, probably by the end of the year, I'll have all 144 in here. If you want a copy of this spreadsheet or this workbook for free, just email me smuller9@gmail.com. You can have it in whatever the latest version is, and this is the latest as of this release date. And if you have ways to improve upon what I've done here, by all means, do so, and please share it with me and the larger APBA community. Thank you so much. Until next time, grip it and rip it.